So hello, Flute friends. I wanted to make a video on how to read a fingering chart because sometimes when you look at a fingering chart, it's kind of overwhelming to look at all the funny symbols that are either colored in or not colored in, and then what does this mean on the flute? And so I'm going to walk with you through a couple of fingering charts to kind of get you acquainted with how to read one. So, for instance, whenever you see a fingering chart, it's going to have some grade. It'll have usually notes that are either darkened, some keys that are darkened in, and then others that aren't. So when you see the darkened ones, that means to put down your finger, put your fingers down on that key. So let's take a look first at your essential elements, because if you look at your essential elements book, your essential elements does really nice way to lay it out. So let me go ahead and share my screen. So this is in your essential elements. It's towards the back. It's like page 46. And as you see, it shows you that an open key, when you don't push it down, it's going to have the circle but not filled in. If it's filled in, that means to push it down. And these up here kind of will be what you see in the drawings. You'll see kind of like, if you look at this, you'll see basically a line of 6 dots and then a kind of little break in between that little tiny thing bar in the middle. That's just to kind of show you where the difference between your hands, your left hand versus your right hand. So your left hand usually has 3 keys. That's 1, 2, 3, and then your right hand usually has 1, 2, 3. That little line is to kind of just show you that's the halfway point on the flute. And then when you see this little bottom thing, this thing of the circle, and then it looks like a little skinny key right there, that one, that one is going to be that key right here. So whenever you see this symbol right here, I'm referring to your thumb keys. So you can either have this thumb key or that one. For most of the stuff we're going to be doing, we're going to use this little thin one right here, this thin long one. And then the other key that is really, really important for now, it's going to be this one that I call, it kind of looks more like a comma to me. And so let me just circle that for right now so you guys see what I'm talking about. It's this little key right here. That one, that's our pinky key on our right hand. That little pinky key on our foot joint. Find your foot joint, the end of your flute. That key right here, that pinky key, that's going to be that thing that looks like a macama. And that's generally how you know what goes with what. So for instance, if I took a look, if I wanted to take a look at my fingering for, I'm going to do my fingering for D, because D is a hard fingering to kind of focus on right now. I know we just learned it, and so I want to go for D. If I look at this fingering right over here, if I take a look at that, this bottom part, remember, this bottom part right here refers to my thumb keys. Now it says, what thumb key do I want to put down? I want to put down the one that looks like the long skinny one. So I'm going to push down that one. And then it says I'm going to put down 2 and 3 with my left hand. Remember, this is going to be left hand, and that's going to be right hand right there. Ooh, I'm making this really messy. So my left hand's going to have thumb, 2, 3, and then remember that line kind of shows us the break of between the left side of the flute and the right side. The right side of my flute, I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, but no pinky. The pinky is not, I'm not going to be pushed. So that's my fingering for D. Let's do another one. Let's take a look now. How about if I wanted to check out my fingering for C? If I wanted to check out my fingering for C, it's saying that I put my first finger, that first one is colored, that first one to the left. So that means my first key on my left hand, first key, first finger. And then nothing else is filled in except for that one little thing on the end, which is the thing that kind of looks like that comma to me. And that means we're going to put down our pinky. So it's first finger and pinky, first finger, pinky. So you can kind of divide up the hands. If you look at fingering charts, whenever you look at these fingering charts, this side, the left side, is always going to be your left hand. And everything on the right side, that's going to be on your right hand. So that's one way to look at that. And so your essential elements fingering chart, super, super helpful. There are other fingering charts that are a little bit more detailed, and you might be like, oh, I don't know how to read it because it looks so different. No fear. These things are practically the same, but they have just some extra keys on there. So This is another one I like to use. This one is a little bit prettier and it kind of shows the kind of look of the keys, you know. So what it's basically showing you is if you look right over, oh, let me make this bigger because this is a lot more fun. I'm going to take the D fingering again. I'm going to take that D fingering, boom, here's my D fingering. If I see these two right here, remember, those are my thumb keys. I get to choose which one, and which one is it? It's asking me to play the long skinny one, so it's going to be that one right there. So that's my thumb. How about these first three up here? That's my left hand fingers up here, up at the top. So it says to put down 2, 3, thumb 2, 3. And then what about when I look over here? What's this thing? Hey, that's that key that looks just like that shape. And whenever you see that one, I call it the diving board key. So hopefully that'll be just something to kind of help you figure that out. Um, then when you see these three keys right here, these three that are darkened right here, these are our regular ones right here, 1, 2, 3, that are right next to our foot joint. That's going to be 1, 2, 3. Make sure not to think that you're pushing down these little tiny ones. It's the bigger ones. These little tiny ones, boom, 1, 2, 3. This refers to these tiny keys on this fingering chart. And we don't have to use these too often, so don't worry about these keys. We're not going to use them for now. Okay? So don't worry about that. This is our normal pinky key. I don't want you to worry about these pinky keys right now. We're not going to use them right now, but I want you to focus that pinky key on our right hand is going to be up. This is a little bit more complicated drawing, but I think it's still one way to be able to understand how we put down our fingers on the flute. The other thing that might confuse you is when you look at this, you kind of sometimes see two notes on here. Like, for instance, if I wanted to, oops, I'm making a mess over here. Let me get rid of that. Okay, so if I look at the fingering for, I'm going to look up the fingering for B flat. Uh-oh, what's up with this? This is crazy stuff. So what do we see right here with our B flat? We see that one, it has three different fingerings. 1, 2, 3. I don't want you to worry about all three fingerings. I want you to focus on the first one. And whenever we do some of these, whenever you see there are multiple fingerings for something, focus on just the first one, just the first one. The first one is the most important one. There are just other ways to be able to play the same note, but we're focused on this one, okay? The other thing you might see is, why does it say A sharp and B flat? Are they two different notes? Actually, no, they are the same note. They're just written two different ways. A sharp and B flat are the same thing, and so if that confuses you, just forget the A sharp is there, look for B flat. But if sometimes, when you look at fingering charts, they only have that A sharp, which is kind of annoying. It's super annoying. When you see that, then you're just going to have to say, huh, A sharp is the same as B flat. That's what I want you to know. A sharp, B flat, same thing. So whenever you're looking for this, just look for this thing and then know, whoop, that's your fingering. Now, to give you an idea of what I mean by why do we see this A sharp stuff going on, I'm going to show you a fingering chart. This is my favorite fingering chart right now because as I click on a note anywhere on here, it'll show me the fingering up here. And so I find this super, super helpful. So if I wanted to focus on, I want to focus on B flat. Uh-oh, I don't see B flat on here. So I have to know my notes on the staff. If I know the notes on my staff, then I am awesome. If not, you can go to your book or you can use the other fingering chart. I like all these fingering charts, but this is one of my favorites, and you can also download the chart over here if you prefer to print it out. But this is a really, really technical one because it shows you the actual keys on the flute. Now, you're like, hey, why are some of them colored in red and some of them are colored in gray and some aren't colored in? Well, the answer for that is if I took the note D, for instance, if I took the note D, the red ones, and I'm going to kind of help us with this to remember, red means put down. Put your finger down for that. Gray, we don't put our fingers down. Gray just means that we don't put our fingers down on those keys. So remember, these keys are going to just stay where they are. We don't put our fingers anywhere on these. Like for instance, that gray one right up here, that first gray one, if I look on the far left, you might be like, why is it grayed out? It's because we don't put our finger on this key. We put our finger on this key, which pushes down the other key. Why don't we put our finger down on this key? Well, it's because usually when we play this key right here, this one right in between, that one, when I play that one, it pushes down the key next to it. So the gray ones are the ones we don't have to worry about where our fingers go. And then the white ones, those are the ones that are just naturally up. So I just focus on looking at the red keys, and that's what I need to push down. Focus on the red keys, that's what you push down. So here are some, these are just some different options for fingering charts. The one that might be the easiest for you guys to kind of start with, is probably your essential elements, I would say. If you like any of these other ones, feel free to use it, but don't feel like you have to. The main thing when you look at a fingering chart is try to see what these circles correspond with on your flute. Remember, left side of the fingering chart, or the left side is left hand, right side, right hand. And then notes finger or the keys that have the open circle, that means leave those fingers up. The ones that have them colored in, put those down. So that's a little kind of crash course on how to read a fingering chart. Hopefully it doesn't look like hieroglyphics to you guys anymore. And this is something you can apply to like almost all instruments. When you see a darkened circle, it means put your finger down. When you don't see an open circle, it means don't put your finger down. So maybe this gives you a little insight into how to play other instruments too. So hope this was helpful to you guys. Have a musical day, everyone. Bye.